Welcome to Race Unwrapped. I'm Michelle Tyreen Johnson. This summer, it became upside down world in American politics. President Joe Biden switched it up on us and decided he wasn't running for president in 2024. And he passed a national job interview over to Vice President Kamala Harris. So the Race Unwrapped team decided that we better talk about what it's like to not just be a voter of color, but to be a candidate of color, facing the headwinds of running for office. For more than 20 years, a national organization called Emerge has been coaching women to run for political office. And who was one of the first women they helped train? A newbie political candidate by the name of Kamala Harris, who was running for district attorney of San Francisco. And by the way, she won. Ashanti Goler is the president of Emerge, and she joins us to talk about why their work is so important. So could you tell me a little bit about what Emerge is and what its purpose is?
Yes. So, a fun fact, Emerge actually came out of Vice President Harris's very first race for district attorney in the Bay Area. Our co-founders were good friends with her, and they were helping her with her campaign. And they realized that there wasn't a good place for women to go to get the tools, the resources, the skills to run for office, but most importantly, that network of support. And we hear the vice president talk about that first race, and she says, I was able to call on friends to help me figure this all out. And we know not everyone has those friends that they can call up who will say, yes, we'll figure out how to create and run a winning campaign. So that is why Emerge was created. We wanted to see more women like the vice president in office. And almost 20 years later, we have grown to train over 6,000 women to run for office through our signature programs and boot camps. And we currently have over 1,200 of those women serving in elected office up and down the ballot across the country, and we demystify what it takes to run for office and give those women the ongoing network of support to win, get reelected, but also to run for higher office.
That's awesome. And Alex Biscardi, our audio engineer, and I just went, wow, what? That's amazing. So
I love it.
It was like, that's a lot. So you must be feeling particularly invested and connected to Vice President Harris's run for the biggest candidate run in the land.
Yes, it is so exciting right now. I mean, we were excited in 2020 when President Biden tapped her to be vice president. But for us, it's also not surprising for us to be here. We always knew that she would be a presidential candidate. So it's great to see her at the top of the ticket. We're invested as Emerge. I'm very much personally invested. I spend a lot of time supporting the vice president. I actually had one of my friends ask me, do you just work for Kamala now? And I'm like, yes. That is what I do to make sure that we get her elected. And it's really great to see the alums in our network, the support that they're giving her, but also the women who are now inspired to run because of the vice president.
That's great. And that's actually why I wanted to do this bonus episode in the season of Race Unwrapped, because, I mean, she essentially became the Democratic nominee after I had finished all my interviews for the season, and it's on race and democracy. So I'm like, how do I not have an episode that reflects we have a black woman running for president? And with each passing day since her name has been announced, it's like her momentum keeps going up and up and up. And even on the days when the media, my sisters and brothers of the media go, oh, it's plateaued. Her support is plateaued.
Where? Where?
And if that's a plateau, then, I don't want to be looking down because I'm afraid of heights. So, okay. So, which then I'm going to be bouncing to a question I was going to ask you later in this interview, but I'm just going to jump to it. So I know you were at the Democratic National Convention, right?
Yes.
That roll call made me feel like a true American.
It was everything. And I'm good friends with Congresswoman Nikema Williams, who is also the chair of the Georgia Democratic Party, and Kevin, the ED of the Georgia Democratic Party. He's like my little brother. I saw them the next morning because I was going to go speak to some delegation breakfasts that were in the same hotel as them. And I said, y'all got a 50-year-old white development director hype. Like, that is how good that roll call was. And it kept getting better and better. But what I really loved is the representation. Everyone who spoke represented the Democratic Party, but they represented America. And they had so much pride for their state, for their heritage, for the Democratic Party. It was just such a beautiful thing. I was like, does it have to end? Like, no, let's start from the beginning. Let's just do it again. And again, I felt that the whole convention was just so well done. You know, another shout out to Mignon Moore, who was chair of the convention, my mentor. It was just beautiful from start to finish, everything that they were able to do.
You know, being at the DNC, you were at the single biggest event for Democrats. Like, it would be the single biggest event if, Smokey the Bear was the candidate. But this was the single biggest event with Kamala Harris at the top of the ticket. And so you had the opportunity to talk and listen and observe. I mean, a literal, coast to coast with Alaska and Hawaii thrown in, view of how people are taking things. Do you really think there's an appetite for electing a Black woman president?
Absolutely. So even before the switch, as I like to call it, we had planned to go all in at the convention. And our theme was leadership looks good on you. And we centered that around the VP because we wanted women to know that they could run for office and have a story like the vice president's. So after the switch, we were all set. This is why I tell the team, stay ready so you don't have to get ready. All we did was just amplify things some more, tweak some things to have her at the top of the ticket. And we had a booth in the convention center. It was one of the largest ones. And we did conversations throughout the week with our media partner, The Meteor. We were also selling shirts. We were selling friendship bracelets, which we cannot keep in stock. Oh my gosh. These things keep selling out after a few days.
And I bet you that's even more so now that Taylor Swift is endorsed.
Oh
Harris.
My gosh. Yeah. Like, just even my lash girl, I wear lash extensions. She was like, I know you have a stash somewhere, Ashanti. You can bring me some of those friendship bracelets. So she got some friendship bracelets. But throughout awesome. The week, our booth was full. Our conversations, every seat was full. People were not only hungry for the vice president and her leadership, but women's leadership. Because we talked about not only electing her at the top of the ticket, but they're going to need great candidates at the state and local level if they really want to get their agenda accomplished. So what does that mean? That means we have to be electing other women as well who have those lived experiences, who will have that seat at the table to help push her forward. But the energy, oh my goodness, I don't think I've seen anything since 2008 with Obama.
That's amazing. That's saying something.
Like that is what it was. And you had everyone walking around with their Swifties for Harris, their hotties for Harris. We had a panel with the white dudes for Harris, and Sean Astin came. And when we talk about appetite, the fact that there's all these white dudes who are being very vocal about the fact that we're not just going to vote for the Black and Asian woman. We're telling other white dudes why you need to do it. We're going to be out here knocking these doors. We're going to be using our platform. That tells us so much. And especially this huge ad buy they're doing now, $10 million to reach other white dudes and say, this is who we are. What MAGA is pushing, that toxic masculinity, that is not masculinity. We are the masculine ones. Like, we're the real white dudes, and I absolutely love it. So also shout out to Ross Raquetto, who helps lead White Dudes for Harris, and that's my buddy.
Awesome. So, on that line, were you at the DNC when Hillary Clinton officially became the nominee?
I was there as well. And that energy, great as well. Like something my team and I still talk about was the video that they played before she came out, and it showed the glass shattering. And we're like, oh my gosh, that was such a great graphic and
Yeah,
visual of what she's
that was a good
doing.
visual. I remember that.
And I just remember the whole time, just everyone was just like, oh my gosh, like we're here, we can do it. Despite all the sexism, the racism, misogyny, we were able to get her as the nominee. Now, she didn't, ascend to the presidency. I personally think like popular vote, like she was the people's choice. And going to her new book, there's actually a clip that was played that I shared on my Instagram where she talked about Vice President Harris, and she said, I always have wondered, when the next woman came, would there be this tiny voice that said, that should have been me? And now I know the answer. She said, after Kamala called me, I looked at Bill and I said, this is so exciting. And just listening to the clip, I just started crying. And that's so many great things about Secretary Clinton. But immediately she was like, it was not me, but it's going to be her, and it's her time. And to just let her shine and be supportive, I think that is also just very critical for us to talk about. Is she has a full support of Secretary Clinton, and it's not it should be me thing. It's like, no, let's elect her.
Wow. I mean, I saw the interview where she said similar things, and I was pretty impressed by her humility and her graciousness, because it would be very, very very, very easy and human to have I don't know,
Some feelings.
some feelings. You know how
Yeah.
black folks like to say, I was feeling a certain way about that.
Yeah,
You know what I
exactly.
mean?
Exactly.
I could totally see that. I mean, I still go, I wonder what Joe Biden's feeling right about now. But anyway,
Look, I love Joe Biden. I call him Pop Pop Joe. You know, totally respect his decision, and obviously, I'm super excited about the vice president. But I'm also an astrology girly, and I tell my friends, I was like, that man is a Scorpio. So I don't know about those people who cross them and how that relationship is. But I have been loving Free Pop Pop Joe. Just that man, he has given his 2 weeks notice, and he's like, I'm going to say what I'm going to say, and you can't do nothing about it. Write about it. Put me on loop on CNN. I don't care. I am loving it.
I mean, it is a good analogy to talk about quitting. It's like, what you gonna do?
Exactly.
I just quit. You can't fire me.
Exactly. Exactly.
You know.
I was like, that man he's on his 2 weeks notice energy, and I ain't mad about it.
So I should loop back about Emerge and go, you all center on women of color running for office. Is that correct?
Yes, when I took over as president in February of 2020, I became the first Black woman to lead the organization. I really wanted to make
Congratulations.
sure, thank you. And it was right before the pandemic. So, your girl was going through it.
I get it. I get it.
I'm like, this was not a part of the 90-day plan, but we are still here. We are thriving. And I really knew that I wanted to continue to center equity and justice. As a Democratic organization at the time, I was, the first Black woman president. My COO was Latina. My board chair was Asian. Every part of us was starting to look more and more like the Democratic Party. And that was something that I had pushed for even when I was political director, making sure that we had that diversity. But I wanted to see it really embedded in our vision. So looking forward towards the next 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, we saw that the new American majority was going to continue to rise. And with that being Black, brown, and indigenous voters, women of color, young women, unmarried women, LGBTQ women, these are the voters who have been fueling Democratic victories. And we need to make sure that they have their name on the ballot, that they are in those seats of power. And we wanted to do that now. We didn't want to wait the next 15, 20 years. So we have our Emerge 2035 vision that centers the new American majority, and that's reaching over 100,000 women of the new American majority, fostering a lift as we climb culture, making sure that they are running for higher office once elected, and frankly, doing what we do best. We wake up every day and we repower political structures here at Emerge. So that's making sure that they're running for different seats up and down the ballot, and really building majority Democratic women governing bodies is what I am going for. Because I'm very honest that when you have parity is just 51% women and then the men. That doesn't mean you're going to have parity in all elected offices across the country, and it doesn't mean that you're going to have that diversity. So if we want to have that good policy, we need more NAM women, we just call it NAM for short, in office.
We'll be right back with more from Ashanti Goler. This is Race Unwrapped. Welcome back to Race Unwrapped. We're talking to Ashanti Goler, president of Emerge. I see on your website that you do candidate training. In fact, it sounds like it's the foundation
It is.
of what you do with Emerge. What is it about preparing women for running for a race that's different than preparing men?
Women, we will wake up and we'll say, do I have the right education? Oh, I don't know about my family. You know, there's some stuff that may come up. Do I have the right job? Am I even prepared? We immediately start to question ourselves when men will just wake up and do it. One of my colleagues, she has a story of like some guy was just in the bar, like doing a rant about politics, was really talking about nothing. But all these people are like, you should run for office, Todd. Whereas if that was a woman, you know that they would be totally critiquing her. So what we do is it first starts with letting women know you already have what it takes to run for office. Whenever I have the opportunity to speak at any of our training programs, I just tell the women, think about all the things that you did today before you came here. You took care of yourself. You probably took care of other people. You organized some things. You managed things. That is what you do in elected office. You already have it. What we do is we give you that breakdown, the tools, the information, just so you can be an effective candidate and a great elected official. So that includes, where do you even go to file to run for office? Do you just have to sign paperwork, or do you have to collect signatures? How do you hire this campaign staff people talk about? Writing a campaign plan, fundraising, public speaking, canvassing, phone banking, debates. That's what we go through in our training program. And the women do it in an environment with other like-minded women who are there to support them and not compete against them. Another, going back to what we were just talking about with Secretary Clinton and the vice president. I love the fact that our alums, they call it the Emerge Sisterhood. And that's something that they developed on their own. And it's across our network in every state. They just started saying sisterhood. Even women who may just heard of Emerge for the first time, got into the program, they'll say, oh, it immediately felt like a sisterhood, not even knowing that that's what some of the other alums have called it. So that is what we do, and that is the difference. We have to let women know that you are just as good or even better than some of these men who are out there running for office.
I love that. As somebody who's been female my entire life and an adult most of it, I love it. I have one last area that I just want to talk to you about real quick, and that is all season long, my interviews have focused on issues of voting that in essence are voter suppression. Because as I always say, you can't talk about race and voting without talking about voter suppression.
Yep.
What role does that play in how you prepare women? Or do you even take that into consideration?
It's something that we absolutely have to think about. Just when our women are on the ballot, thinking about our states such as Wisconsin, Georgia, Pennsylvania, We have our alums who will say, well, I have to wait to file because I don't know what district I'm going to be in. That is real. And, gerrymandering is just another form of voter suppression. That is what it is. And just thinking about what's happening in Nebraska, that is voter suppression at the last minute, few weeks before an election. I also want to say keeping Kamala's name off of the ballot that you're mailing to overseas voters, that is voter suppression. These elected officials should not get to choose who their voters are. But for us, with our women, when we're training them, it's something that we have to think about. What is the map going to look like? What district are you going to be in? Are they going to take these 2 congressional districts and make it into 1 congressional district? So that's really how it impacts us, is we have to figure out what the seats are going to look like. What's the district going to look like? Because they're constantly trying to change the game to lessen our impact, lessen our power, because they know how powerful we are.
This has been an amazing conversation. And Ashanti, before we kind of go our separate ways, I just wanted to ask you, so in light of what we've talked about, what do you think we need to do as a country in the hours, days, weeks ahead? Although by the time this airs, I think we will be talking hours and minutes to make sure that democracy shines.
Yes, we have to stay engaged. And I think we have to be honest. Us, the people listening to this podcast, hello. Like, we're the ones who are really engaged. We're the ones who are sucking up information. And those around us may not be doing it, and they may have questions that they're scared to ask. There's lots of people who, are very knowledgeable, but they may not feel that they have all the information on a certain issue and don't want to say it. We have to continue to have these open conversations about what is at stake, because it is our democracy. It is women's rights to choose. It's education. The fact that Project 2025 wants to eliminate the Department of Education, can we really please talk about that to people? It is serious. And Project 2025 is not a joke. It is not something that's going to be on the horizon if he were to get elected. It is something that is already here, that they are enacting in several states. They absolutely will make sure that Project 2025 comes to light, but it's also about our kids. I got to be involved in the Oprah special live stream that the vice president did with her.
Yeah.
And seeing the young girl who survived the school shooting still with the bandages on her arm, like, that is the reality. So this is about our democracy. It's about our kids. It's about our future. And we need to make sure that we're having conversations with people so they know that it is real. It is not a game.
And win or lose, do you think Vice President Harris will inspire more women, particularly women of color, to run for office?
Absolutely, because here at Emerge, we already see it. And I know there's those people who are like, oh, you're not going to see it right away, unlike Hillary. And I'm like, first of all, no. And I also don't like the undertone of that, if I'm honest. It's saying that more people could only relate to Hillary Clinton because she was a white woman, and they can't relate to the vice president because she's a black woman and an Indian woman, is really insane to me. But we absolutely see that energy now. We saw how she inspired our alums before she was at the top of the ticket. So there's definitely going to be lots of Emerge applications coming through when we ask the question, what inspired you to run? And people are going to write Kamala Harris.
I ain't gonna lie. This was a heavy and thought-provoking topic to tackle in the midst of a particularly challenging and scary election cycle. But I can't imagine not doing it. And I thank you for listening. Let me know what you thought about this season. Leave me a review in your podcast app or send an email to raceunwrapped@lpm.org. You can even let me know what you think we should cover next season. Remember, these conversations happen because of you. please consider supporting this podcast at raceunwrapped.org. And if you want to pay it forward in another way, please vote. It's a wrap for Season 4. I'm Michelle Tyreen Johnson. Thank you for listening to Race Unwrapped.
Race Unwrapped is produced by Michelle Tyreen Johnson for Louisville Public Media. Alex Biscardi is our audio engineer. Music by Allison Cross. Our executive producer is Laura Ellis. For more information, to contact us, or to support Race Unwrapped, visit raceunwrapped.org.